The late afternoon air settled gently over Fairmont Hills, a quiet suburban town nestled just north of Sacramento, California. The small independent clinic on Holloway Avenue was beginning to wind down for the day, fluorescent lights flickering slightly as the last appointments were being checked in. Dr. Jared Manel, a 53-year-old family physician with graying temples and a calming presence, glanced at his watch as he exited the examination room. He had run a bit behind schedule, but the clinic was nearly done for the evening. A few more patients, and the team could finally wrap up. "Janine," he called softly as he passed the nurse station. This was left behind by Mrs. Palmer. He handed over a velvet pouch containing prescription eyeglasses. Janine, the nurse on duty, nodded and placed the pouch carefully in a drawer. "I'll call her before she gets too far," she said. Dr. Manel smiled briefly, then turned toward the modest waiting area, his eyes scanning over the few remaining patients. The clinic was nearly empty now, the end-of-day lull settling in. His gaze landed on a pair seated in the farthest corner, a broad-shouldered man in a dark navy polo shirt and a teenage girl in a faded red hoodie. Her hood was up despite the warmth inside, her head lowered, fingers tightly clasped in her lap. Recognition flashed in the doctor's eyes. "Patrick," he greeted warmly as he walked toward them. "Patrick Henley, right? I didn't know you were stopping in today." The man stood and extended a firm hand. "Evening, Dr. Manel. Good to see you." He lowered his voice slightly. "We're neighbors, after all. You can call me Patrick." Dr. Manel turned to the girl beside him. "And this must be Talia. I don't think we've officially met, though I've seen you two walking your dog past my place." The girl didn't lift her eyes. She gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Her body seemed to fold into itself, as if she were trying to disappear into the chair. "We'll be with you shortly," Dr. Manel assured them before stepping back into his exam room. Inside, he began sorting charts, straightening paperwork from the previous patient, when Janine stepped in. She moved efficiently, wiping down the examination table, adjusting the settings on the ultrasound machine. Her movements were practiced, almost mechanical, until she spoke. "Doctor," she said in a hushed voice, "there's something off about the father and daughter out there." Dr. Manel paused. "Off how?" Janine's expression tightened as she sprayed disinfectant over the stethoscope and began wiping it down. "When I took the girl's vitals, her father didn't let her say a single word. I asked for her name," he answered. "I asked how she'd been feeling," he answered again. "Wouldn't let her speak, even when I insisted." She exhaled slowly, the creases around her mouth deepening. "And the girl, Talia, she didn't make eye contact. Not even once. Not with me. Not with you. Just kept her eyes on the floor." Dr. Manel leaned back in his chair, frowning slightly. "I know them. They live 3 doors down from me. Patrick can be a bit domineering, but I've always known him to be responsible. Protective, maybe." Janine folded her arms. "I'm Mexican, doctor. I know when something's cultural, and when something is something else." She hesitated before adding, "This is not just strict parenting." It felt like fear. She handed him the girl's intake chart and left the room quietly. Dr. Manel's brow furrowed as he scanned the notes. 15-year-old female. Nausea. Fatigue. Abdominal pain. Missed periods. His eyes narrowed. Pregnancy symptoms. He set the chart down, sat for a moment in silence, then stood, adjusting his white coat. "Okay," he said aloud, more to himself than to anyone else. "Let's take a closer look." He stepped out into the hallway and signaled to Janine. "Send them in." Moments later, Patrick Henley walked Talia into the room, one hand firmly placed on her shoulder. The girl moved stiffly, like she was made of glass. Her hoodie hung loosely from her frame, the sleeves nearly covering her fingertips. "Thanks for staying late to see us, doctor," Patrick said, settling into the chair beside the exam table, "especially on such short notice." "Of course," Dr. Manel replied, maintaining a professional tone. "What seems to be the issue?" Patrick hesitated, shifting in his seat. "It's a little hard to talk about. But my daughter, she's pregnant." Though the doctor had seen the indicators in the chart, hearing it spoken aloud like that, so direct, so blunt, made the moment feel heavier. Dr. Manel turned his attention to Talia. Her eyes were fixed on her lap. Her hands trembled slightly. "I see," he said gently. "Talia, how have you been feeling?" Before she could answer, Patrick cut in again. "She's been dealing with morning sickness. Gets tired easily. The stomach pain's been getting worse lately." Dr. Manel looked at Talia again. "Would you prefer to answer these questions yourself?" She gave the faintest nod. "And do you remember how this pregnancy happened?" he asked softly. Patrick immediately responded. "She has a boyfriend. We'd rather not talk about him." His voice carried an edge now, and the subtext was clear. This topic was closed. Not up for discussion. Dr. Manel made a mental note of the tension. "Well," the doctor said, his tone carefully neutral, "I'd like to do an ultrasound, check on the baby, see how far along you are. Is that okay with you, Talia?" She nodded again, still not looking up. "Janine will help you onto the table," he added. "You'll need to lift your hoodie just above your stomach." The nurse stepped forward and gently guided the girl. As Talia lay back, she winced, her face twisting in discomfort. "Does that hurt?" Janine asked softly. The girl nodded again. Patrick chimed in. "Yeah, the pain's been more constant lately." Dr. Manel applied the cold gel to Talia's abdomen. She flinched as it touched her skin. He moved the transducer slowly, watching the monitor with practiced eyes. Then he froze. He adjusted the machine's angle. Checked again. His brow furrowed. "You're about 29 weeks along," he said slowly. Patrick's eyes widened. "That can't be right. It hasn't been that long." "Have you taken her to an obstetrician before?" Dr. Manel asked, his voice sharper now. "No," Patrick replied. "This is the first visit." The doctor examined the screen more closely. "It's a girl," he said, then added, "but there are some concerns." Talia didn't react. But Dr. Manel saw Janine glance up, tension building in her expression. "What I'm seeing on the scan," Dr. Manel began carefully, "doesn't line up with the usual development expected at 29 weeks. The fetus is measuring smaller than it should." He adjusted the ultrasound settings again, scanning the contours on the screen with a furrowed brow. "This may indicate something called intrauterine growth restriction, or IUGR for short." He turned slightly toward Patrick, watching his reaction. Patrick leaned forward, his tone skeptical. "What does that mean exactly? Is something wrong with the baby?" "It means she's not growing at a normal rate," Dr. Manel explained. "This can happen for a few reasons: problems with the placenta, maternal health issues, or sometimes fetal abnormalities. I'm also detecting an irregular heartbeat." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. Patrick frowned. "Okay, so what now? You give her medicine or something." "This isn't something we can treat with pills," the doctor said gently. "Talia needs to be monitored at a hospital, where they can run more advanced tests, Doppler studies, fetal echocardiograms, and check for organ development. This isn't something I can provide in my clinic." Patrick looked uneasy. His eyes flicked toward Talia and back again. "She's not in pain right now, right? Can't we just get vitamins or something to help her along?" Dr. Manel kept his tone measured. "I can write a prescription for prenatal vitamins, folic acid, and calcium supplements, but I want to be clear. These will not address the more serious concerns I'm seeing. This baby is at risk. So is Talia." He scribbled quickly on his prescription pad and tore the sheet free. "The pharmacy next door is still open. You can pick these up while Janine and I finish cleaning up the ultrasound. Talia will join you shortly." Patrick hesitated for a moment longer, then took the paper from the doctor's hand. "Okay, I'll head over there now." He paused at the door, turning to look at his daughter. "I'll be right back, sweetheart." The door clicked shut behind him. As soon as he was gone, Janine began wiping the gel from Talia's abdomen with gentle strokes. "You're doing great, honey," she whispered. "You're going to be okay." Talia's eyes filled with tears. Her voice was barely a whisper. "She kicks when she hears his voice," she said. "I hate that she likes him." Dr. Manel and Janine froze, their eyes meeting above the girl's trembling body. Her words echoed in the air like a distant alarm. "What do you mean by that, Talia?" the doctor asked softly. But the girl had retreated into silence, her moment of vulnerability gone. She stared back at the ceiling, blinking away tears. Dr. Manel stepped away from the exam table, his mind spinning. Could she be projecting anger about the pregnancy onto her father? Or was there something deeper, something darker, lurking beneath the surface? He chose his words carefully. "What's done is done. Your father brought you here because he's worried about your health. But right now, our focus has to be making sure you and the baby stay safe. That's why it's so important you go to the hospital tonight." Janine handed Talia the printed ultrasound image. The girl took it silently, her fingers clutching the black and white paper. To her, it looked like an abstract blur of shadows, not the image of a child growing inside her. Through the glass panel of the door, Dr. Manel saw Patrick returning from the pharmacy. "Let's get her cleaned up," he said quietly. Janine helped Talia sit up and gather her belongings just as Patrick opened the door again. "How's she doing?" he asked, looking between the doctor and nurse. "She's fine for now," Dr. Manel replied. "But I'd like you to take her to the hospital right away. I can't stress this enough." Patrick's jaw tightened. "We'll consider it. She's had a long day. I'll get her home, give her the vitamins, and if she's not feeling better, we'll go tomorrow." Dr. Manel frowned. "I really think—" "Thank you for your time, doctor," Patrick interrupted, his tone final. Talia followed her father out of the clinic, her movements slow and heavy. Janine stood beside the doctor, arms folded. "You believe him?" she asked quietly. "No," Dr. Manel admitted. "I don't." They watched as the pair disappeared into the darkened parking lot. Janine sighed, rubbing her temples. "That was the last appointment, right?" "Yes," the doctor replied. "That's it for today." They finished shutting down the clinic in silence, locking drawers and turning off lights. The other staff had already gone. Outside, the streets of Fairmont Hills were quiet, bathed in the orange glow of street lamps. As Janine walked to her car, she glanced over her shoulder. "Something's not right, doctor." "I can feel it." "I know," he said. "Me too." He climbed into his own car and started the engine, but didn't drive. He sat for a moment, staring through the windshield. The image of Talia's pale, frightened face haunted him. Her strange comment echoed again in his ears. She kicks when she hears his voice, unable to shake the feeling. He backed out of the clinic driveway and began driving slowly through the neighborhood. When he reached the Henley home, a two-story gray colonial with drawn curtains, he saw their car parked in the driveway. "They didn't go to the hospital," he muttered. He pulled into his own driveway just a few houses away and sat in the dark car, debating his next move. "You've done your job," a voice inside him said. "You warned them. You can't force anyone to listen." But another voice, stronger, rose above the doubt. She was scared. "Something's wrong. You know it." He got out and started walking back toward the Henley house. The lights were still on inside. He hesitated for only a second before raising his fist and knocking. The door opened to reveal Patrick, surprise flashing in his eyes. "Dr. Manel," he said. "Is something wrong?" The doctor kept his tone light. I just wanted to check in. I noticed your car was still here. I was hoping you had taken Talia to the hospital. Patrick's expression didn't change. Her mother took her. I stayed behind to finish some work. It was the first time he had mentioned the mother. Dr. Manel blinked. Oh, I see. She's in good hands, Patrick added quickly. Thanks again for your concern, but it's getting late. Of course, the doctor said. Good night, Mr. Henley. He turned and walked back to his house, but his stomach churned with unease. Something about Patrick's explanation didn't sit right. Inside his kitchen, he stood staring at his refrigerator, unable to eat. He sat at his desk instead and opened his laptop, pulling up Facebook. A professional boundary blurred. But he had to know. He searched for Patrick Henley and found his profile. Privacy settings were low. He browsed through photos, then clicked on the name Clarissa Wynn, listed as the mother of Talia. Her profile picture tugged at a memory. The woman's face bore a strong resemblance to Talia. He scrolled her timeline. There were no recent family pictures, no photos of Talia for years. He messaged her. Hello, Ms. Wynn. I'm Dr. Jared Manel. I saw your daughter today. She was brought in by Mr. Henley. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I just wanted to check how the hospital visit is going. He paused, then hit send. Dr. Manel sat in his dimly lit study, the pale glow of the laptop screen casting shadows across the walls. Outside, the quiet hum of the Fairmont Hills night continued uninterrupted. Neighbors asleep, porches dark. He stared at the Facebook message he'd just sent to Clarissa Wynn, unsure if she'd see it, or worse, if she'd be alarmed. His thoughts kept circling back to Talia's haunted eyes, her cryptic words, and Patrick's evasiveness. Something wasn't right, and his gut told him this wasn't just a medical case anymore. It was something darker, heavier, and possibly criminal. He tried to distract himself by organizing some folders on his desk, but his attention kept snapping back to the screen. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The stillness was broken by the familiar ping of a Facebook notification. He leaned forward quickly. It was a message. Clarissa Wynn had replied. But it wasn't just a message. His phone vibrated, and a Facebook video call request from her popped up. Heart racing, he answered immediately. Hello, Ms. Wynn. This is Dr. Manel. Her voice trembled on the other end, sharp and urgent. What hospital visit? What are you talking about? I haven't seen Talia in almost 4 years. Dr. Manel felt his breath catch in his chest. Wait, what? But Patrick said she went with you. That's why he stayed behind. There was a sharp inhale. Clarissa's voice cracked. That's impossible. We've been divorced for over 10 years. He has full custody. There's a restraining order against me. I'm not allowed to go near her, and I haven't had contact since she was 11. The doctor stood up, pacing. Talia's 15 now, he muttered, connecting the dots. She's pregnant, 29 weeks along. And the scan showed alarming signs. Growth restriction, fetal arrhythmia. Clarissa's gasp on the other end was visceral, full of pain. Oh my God, she whispered. No, that's not possible. He said she had a boyfriend. That's what he told me, Manel said, his voice tightening. But nothing felt right. And then she said something strange. That the baby kicks when it hears his voice. And that she hates that the baby likes him. Clarissa went silent. The line buzzed faintly. Finally, she spoke through tears. That monster. That evil bastard. I always knew there was something off, but I never imagined he'd do this to his own daughter. Dr. Manel swallowed hard. She's scared. And when I visited their house, she tried to tell me something, but couldn't. I feel I failed her by not pressing harder. Clarissa's voice steadied slightly, rage simmering beneath the grief. I need to see her. I don't care if it breaks the court order. I need to get to her. Please, if you believe she's in danger, call the police. I'll deal with the legal fallout later." The doctor nodded, though she couldn't see him. "You're right. I think she tried to reach out in the only way she could." After ending the call, Dr. Manel sat down and pulled up Talia's digital chart. He re-examined the ultrasound images again, measuring, noting. Everything confirmed the severity of her condition: restricted fetal growth, possible oxygen deprivation, and a consistently irregular heartbeat. He clenched his jaw. This wasn't something he could ignore overnight. He looked at the clock, 10:15 p.m. If he waited until morning, Patrick might flee or do worse. Whatever was happening in that house, Talia didn't feel safe, and now neither did he. Determined, the doctor changed out of his comfortable clothes, pulling on jeans and a gray hoodie. He grabbed his stethoscope, phone, and the folder of printed ultrasound images. Before leaving, he slipped the small memory card from the ultrasound machine into his coat pocket, just in case. The night was cooler now, a light fog hovering above the manicured lawns. Streetlights cast long shadows along the sidewalk as he walked briskly toward the Henley residence, heart pounding. Windows still glowed with warm light. He hesitated only a moment, then knocked firmly on the door. It creaked open, not to Patrick, but to Talia. She looked startled, eyes wide. "Dr. Manel," she whispered. He kept his voice low. "Talia, did you go to the hospital?" She shook her head, eyes darting nervously toward the hallway behind her. "Luke," before she could finish, Patrick's voice bellowed from inside. "Who is it, Talia? Is that the delivery guy? What's taking so long?" Panic shot across her face. "Please go," she whispered urgently, trying to shut the door. Manel placed his hand gently on the edge to stop it from closing. "Talia, I can help you. Let me help you." "I can't," she said, her voice breaking. "Please," she pushed the door closed. The doctor stood there for a moment, the porch light buzzing softly above him. Technically, he'd done what he could. He'd advised medical intervention, documented everything. But something about the silence behind that door, it chilled him. And then, the door opened again. This time, Patrick stood in the doorway. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes burned with annoyance. "Dr. Manel," he said, "it's late. Why are you back here?" "I just wanted to follow up," Manel replied calmly. "I was concerned about Talia. You said she went to the hospital with her mother. That doesn't appear to be the case." Patrick's jaw tightened. "You've been checking up on me?" "Her health is my concern," the doctor said evenly. "And I take that seriously." The ultrasound revealed potentially life-threatening issues. Patrick's eyes darted to the side, then back. A light flicked on in the neighboring house, a curtain pulling aside as someone peeked out. Patrick seemed to notice. His posture shifted. "Perhaps we should continue this inside," he offered, voice suddenly smooth. "No need to alarm the neighbors." Manel hesitated, then nodded. "All right." Inside, the house smelled of cleaning chemicals and old wood. A worn couch sat in the living room. A flat-screen TV paused on the news. Talia was seated, hands folded, eyes glued to the floor. "Talia," Manel said gently, "how are you feeling?" "She's fine," Patrick snapped. "Just tired. She's been through a lot." "That's why she needs medical attention," Manel replied, refusing to back down. "She's severely undernourished, and the baby's not getting enough oxygen. Every hour matters." Patrick exhaled sharply. "We'll take her tomorrow. It's late. She needs rest more than a 3-hour ER wait." "The baby could be in distress right now," Manel argued. "Why wait?" Patrick's demeanor darkened. "The baby won't die overnight." The cruelty of the words landed like a slap. Manel didn't respond immediately. Before he could, the doorbell rang. Patrick visibly relaxed. "That'll be dinner," I ordered pizza. He turned toward the door. Stay with the doctor, sweetheart. I'll be right back. As Patrick stepped out, Manel moved closer to Talia. Are you okay? He asked softly. She glanced toward the hallway, then reached into the front pocket of her hoodie and pulled out a small, folded bundle of photographs. She slipped them into his hand without a word, just as Patrick returned, balancing a pizza box. What are you two whispering about? Patrick asked, tone too light. Talia was saying she's hungry, Manel said smoothly. Which is good. Nutrition is vital. Patrick placed the pizza on the coffee table and forced a smile. See? I take care of her. He turned toward Manel. Doctor, I appreciate your concern, but it's getting late. Talia needs sleep. You said that yourself. And she also needs a hospital, Manel replied. Patrick's smile faded. Tomorrow, he repeated coldly. Seeing no way to push further without escalating things dangerously, Manel nodded. I'll check in again. First thing in the morning. Dr. Manel left the Henley home with his pulse racing and the folded bundle of photographs tucked securely in the inner pocket of his jacket. The door shut behind him with an unsettling finality, but in his mind it wasn't over, not even close. As he walked briskly down the quiet street back to his home, his thoughts churned. Talia had risked everything to pass him those images. Whatever was on them, it had to matter. It had to be proof of the suspicion that had been clawing at the back of his mind all night. Back in his house, he locked the door behind him and immediately went to his office. The lamp on his desk cast a yellow circle of light on the wood as he drew out the bundle with trembling hands. There were 4 photos, printed on glossy paper, each one progressively worse than the last. His breath caught in his throat as he stared in horror. They showed Talia in various states of undress on what appeared to be a bed. Patrick Henley was in the frame of every single image. The setting was the same in all of them, dim lighting. The same plaid bedspread he'd glimpsed behind Talia in the Henleys' living room. My God, Manel whispered, a hand rising to his mouth. His stomach turned, nausea rising fast. These weren't vague implications or cryptic statements anymore. This was clear, graphic documentation of abuse. Talia hadn't been exaggerating. She hadn't even needed to say anything. These images screamed the truth. She kicks when she hears his voice. The words took on a monstrous meaning. Patrick wasn't just her father. He was the father of the baby, too. Without hesitation, Manel grabbed his phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? This is Dr. Jared Manel. I need to report a case of child abuse and sexual assault. A 15-year-old girl, 29 weeks pregnant. The father is the abuser. The victim and her unborn child need immediate medical attention. The dispatcher's tone shifted instantly, from professional calm to urgent protocol. Doctor, can you confirm the child is safe right now? She's inside the house with him, Manel said, voice taut. I was just there. I have photographic evidence in hand. The child gave them to me discreetly. I'm concerned he may become violent if confronted. We're dispatching units now, she replied. Stay where you are. Officers will arrive shortly to coordinate with you. Do not attempt to re-enter the home. I understand, Manel said, hanging up. His next move was clear. He took out his phone again and carefully took photos of the printed images, making sure to capture the full detail. He sent them to Clarissa Wynn with a short message. I've contacted the police. They're on the way. Talia is still in the house. I'm outside. Be ready. Her reply came almost instantly. I'm coming now. That monster. I'll kill him myself if I have to. Manel quickly called her. Clarissa, don't do anything rash. Please, let the police handle this. They need to arrest him. We need to make sure Talia and the baby get out safely. I hear you, she said, voice shaking. But I swear to God, if he hurts her again before they get there, the police are minutes away. Hold on. Manel stood at his front window, peering down the street. The seconds stretched unbearably, each one etched with tension. He refreshed the folder on his laptop, backing up the photos to cloud storage just in case. 10 minutes passed, then 12. Then, finally, flashing blue and red lights turned the corner. 3 cruisers arriving silently. No sirens, just cold determination. He stepped outside to meet them. I'm Dr. Jared Manel. I made the call. The lead officer, a stocky man in his 40s, stepped forward. Detective Rory Valdez. You have the evidence. Manel handed over the photos, now in a sealed envelope. Talia Henley gave these to me about 30 minutes ago. She said there are more in the house, possibly in her father's bedroom. Valdez flipped through them quickly, his expression hardening with every image. We need to move in carefully. The girl's still inside. Yes. She's scared. She's been trying to reach out, but he's got full control over her. Claims he's taking her to the hospital tomorrow, but I don't believe that for a second. A younger officer jogged over. Sir, lights are still on inside. Curtains drawn. No movement by the front. Valdez nodded. Circle the property. Secure the perimeter. I want someone at the back door, the side gate, and the garage exit. Another officer came forward with an evidence bag and took possession of the photos. Manel pointed to the attic. He might try to run, or hide her up there. I don't trust him not to panic. Valdez gave the nod. All right, let's do this quiet. We'll knock first. If no answer in 30 seconds, we breach. Manel watched from across the street as officers moved into position. Neighbors were beginning to stir, porch lights blinking on, blinds parting just enough for curious eyes. Then came the sharp knock. 3 loud raps from the front door. Santa Clara, police. Open the door. Silence. Another knock. Harder this time. No movement. Valdez muttered into his radio. A second later, one of the officers, stationed at the back, called in. We've got movement upstairs. Attic windows open. 2 figures on the roof. Shit, Valdez hissed, drawing his weapon. Back unit. Get that inflatable down now. Manel's heart stopped as he stepped forward to see better. Patrick Henley was on the roof, and he had Talia with him. She looked terrified, unsteady, her hands gripping his arm. Stay back. Patrick screamed. I swear I'll jump with her. We're a family. If I'm going down, we all go down together. Talia was crying, her hands instinctively cradling her abdomen. Please don't, she begged, her voice cracked and raw. Please help me. Manel stepped forward instinctively. Patrick, don't do this. The police know everything. The pictures, she gave them to me. Patrick's face twisted with rage. You little bitch, he snarled, turning on Talia. You gave him those pictures? After everything I've done for you. Down the street, a car screeched to a halt. A woman jumped out and ran toward the house. Clarissa. That's my daughter, she screamed, pushing past the barricade. Talia. I'm here, baby. I'm here. The girl's face turned toward the voice, her tear-streaked cheeks quivering. Mom. That single word shifted something. Patrick grabbed her arm tighter, pulling her closer to the edge. Below, officers deployed a large inflatable landing pad and started calling out. Patrick Henley. This is Detective Valdez. Release the girl. There's nowhere for you to go. Officers were moving to the attic window, creeping out from behind. Patrick saw them. He turned in fury. She's mine, he shouted. You don't get to take her. Then he pushed Talia off the roof. Talia fell screaming through the night air, her arms flailing as gravity pulled her toward the ground. The sound sliced through the quiet neighborhood, igniting cries from neighbors and gasps from the officers watching below. She landed hard, her small frame bouncing once on the thick, inflatable cushion that the police had deployed just moments earlier. Paramedics rushed forward instantly, climbing onto the pad to assess her condition, their voices rapid and controlled. "We've got a pulse. She's breathing. Get vitals now." Her body trembled, but she was conscious, alive. Blood smeared her hoodie from a scraped elbow, but no broken limbs were immediately visible. Across the roof, Patrick Henley let out a strangled roar, his face twisted with fury as officers lunged toward him. He turned sharply, attempting to leap in the opposite direction, but didn't make it far. Two officers tackled him mid-motion, his body slamming against the shingled roof with a dull thud. He fought, snarling and cursing, but they were faster, stronger, and more focused. They pinned him down, arms yanked behind his back as cold handcuffs snapped into place. "You're done," one of the officers hissed, knee pressed firmly into his back. "It's over, Henley." They began securing ropes to lower him safely, but with far less care than they had for his daughter. Dr. Manel raced across the street, nearly stumbling as he reached the landing zone. "I'm her doctor," he shouted, flashing his ID as he pushed through. One of the paramedics glanced up, nodding urgently. "She's in shock, but stable for now. Minor lacerations. We're prepping for transport." Manel knelt beside Talia, who lay dazed on the cushion, her eyes unfocused and wet with tears. "Talia," he said gently, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "Can you hear me?" Her lips moved slightly. "The baby," she whispered hoarsely. "Is the baby okay?" He pulled his stethoscope from his neck and placed it gently against her abdomen, listening. Faint but steady, a heartbeat pulsed through. "It's still irregular," he told her truthfully, "but it's strong. You both are going to be okay." Her eyes fluttered, a single tear sliding down her cheek. "You came back," she said faintly. "You didn't leave me." "You asked for help," Manel whispered. "You were incredibly brave." Nearby, Clarissa Wynn stood behind the police barricade, trembling as she watched the scene unfold. Her hands covered her mouth, her body shaking with emotion. As the paramedics wheeled Talia toward the ambulance, she ran to them. "Please," she cried. "I'm her mother." One of the officers stepped in front of her. "We need to verify. Let her through," Manel interrupted firmly. "This is her mother. I can vouch for it." Clarissa rushed to Talia's side, grabbing her daughter's hand with both of hers. "Talia," she sobbed. "It's me. It's Mom. I'm here, baby. I'm not going anywhere." The girl's eyes opened slightly, blinking against the ambulance lights. "Mom," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I missed you." "I missed you too," Clarissa said, kissing her hand again and again. "So much. We're going to fix this. I promise." Inside the ambulance, Dr. Manel took a seat across from the gurney, watching the fetal monitor and Talia's vital signs. Clarissa sat beside her daughter, never letting go of her hand. The siren screamed into the night as the ambulance sped toward Fairmont General Hospital. Lights flashed past in streaks as Dr. Manel kept his eyes on the machines, watching for any sign of distress. "Her vitals are holding steady," he told the paramedics. "Let's just pray it stays that way." One of them nodded. "We've got the OB team on standby. They'll be ready when we arrive." At the hospital, a team was already waiting as the doors burst open. A female obstetrician in her 40s with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor stepped forward. "Dr. Elena Navarro," she introduced herself quickly. "Specialist in high-risk pregnancies." "What's the case?" 15-year-old, Manel began. 29 weeks, suspected IUGR, fetal arrhythmia, recent trauma from a fall. Landed on an inflatable, but still high concern for placental injury. "Understood," she said, taking over as her team wheeled Talia down the hallway. Clarissa and Manel followed close behind, breathless. As Talia was taken for scans and fetal assessments, Manel and Clarissa were ushered into a private waiting area, where Detective Valdez soon joined them. His clothes were dusty, his expression grim. A woman followed behind him, Rebecca Sloan from Child Protective Services. "We need to document everything," Valdez began. "From the moment she arrived at your clinic, doctor, to the rescue tonight. We also need to understand the custody history." Clarissa nodded, swallowing hard. "I'll tell you everything." She recounted it all. How she and Patrick had divorced 10 years ago. How he'd painted himself as the stable parent when she'd been struggling with a gambling addiction. How she'd been caught leaving Talia home alone during a poker game and lost custody. How he'd moved to a new county and severed all contact. "I've been clean for years," she said through tears. "I've got a steady job now, a safe apartment, a bedroom ready for Talia. I tried everything to get her back." He blocked every attempt. He had a restraining order. Claimed I was a danger. Rebecca Sloan nodded solemnly. "Unfortunately, isolation is one of the most common tactics abusers use to maintain control. They cut off family, friends, school, anyone who might notice the signs." Detective Valdez pulled out a notepad. "We found a hidden room in the basement. It's bad. Cameras, equipment, evidence going back years. This didn't just start recently." Clarissa covered her mouth in horror, turning away. "He took everything from her," she whispered. "He stole her entire childhood." Manel rubbed his eyes. "She still managed to ask for help. That took more strength than we'll ever understand." Just then, Dr. Navarro returned. "Talia is stable. The baby's heart is still irregular, but we've started medication and steroid injections to speed up lung development. No signs of placental rupture from the fall, thankfully." Clarissa clutched her chest in relief. "Can we see her?" "She's asking for you both," Navarro said. "She says you saved her life." The hospital room was dim and quiet, illuminated only by the soft glow of machines and monitors. The steady beeping of Talia's fetal heart monitor provided a kind of rhythm, fragile, yet reassuring. She lay propped up slightly on a hospital bed, a thin blanket pulled to her chest for a line in her arm, and sensors taped across her belly. Despite the trauma she had just endured, there was something different in her eyes now. The heavy veil of fear that had cloaked her for so long was beginning to lift. Her shoulders were still hunched, her gaze still cautious, but in her expression was something new, resolve. Clarissa entered slowly, guided by a nurse. She paused at the doorway, almost afraid to breathe, as if Talia might vanish if she moved too quickly. "Talia," she whispered. The girl looked up, her eyes brimming again. "Mom." Clarissa crossed the room in 2 steps and gently wrapped her arms around her daughter. "My brave, beautiful girl," she said, voice shaking. Talia clung to her, burying her face into her mother's shoulder, her body trembling. "You came back," she said. "I didn't think you would." "I never stopped trying," Clarissa replied, holding her tighter. "I promise you, I never gave up." Dr. Manel stood respectfully at the foot of the bed, giving them space, but staying close enough to monitor Talia's vitals. Detective Valdez and Rebecca Sloan from CPS waited just outside the room, giving the family a few minutes before they stepped in. When Clarissa finally pulled back, brushing Talia's hair from her forehead, the girl looked to the door. "They want to talk to me, don't they?" "Only if you feel ready," Clarissa said gently. "It's your choice." "I want to tell the truth," Talia said, her voice soft but steady. "All of it." Rebecca entered first, her tone kind but professional. "Talia, I'm with Child Protective Services. You're not in trouble. We're here to protect you. But we do need your help to make sure your father can never hurt you again." Talia nodded slowly. "Okay." Valdez stepped in next, setting his notebook down on the small side table. Talia, take your time. If at any point you want to stop, just say so. We can come back later. No, she said. I need to say it. She took a breath, then began. There was never a boyfriend, she said clearly. My father. He's the father of the baby, too. Clarissa closed her eyes in pain, her grip on the chair tightening. Talia continued, her voice shaking only slightly. It started a little after the court gave him full custody. He pulled me out of school and said he'd homeschool me. But there were no real lessons. Just enough so I could answer questions if anyone asked. Most of the time I was alone in the house or locked in the basement when someone came over. Valdez's jaw clenched. Rebecca took notes silently, her face unreadable. He told me not to talk to anyone, said no one would believe me, that if I ever tried to tell anyone, I'd be taken away and never see him again. I didn't know what to do. She looked at Dr. Manel. When I started feeling sick, he got mad. He said he'd make me get rid of it. But then he changed. He got weird. He started calling it our baby, said it was special, like we were a family. I hated it. She looked down at her belly, one hand resting protectively over it. The baby started kicking a few weeks ago. Every time he came near, she'd kick. I wanted to scream. I hated that she responded to him. But I know it's not her fault. Her voice cracked again. She's just a baby. She didn't ask for any of this. Clarissa reached out and took her daughter's hand. You're right. She's innocent. And so are you. None of this is your fault. I wanted to tell someone for a long time, Talia continued. But I didn't know how. He took pictures all the time. He kept them in a box in his closet. I snuck some out tonight while he was in the shower before the clinic. I didn't know what to do with them, but when Dr. Manel came to the house, I thought maybe. Her voice trailed off. You did exactly the right thing, Manel said softly. You were incredibly brave. Valdez nodded. We found that box. And more. A hidden room in the basement. Cameras. Equipment. He recorded almost everything. We've secured the evidence. It's more than enough to ensure he'll never hurt anyone again. What's going to happen to him? Talia asked. He's in custody, Valdez replied. And with the charges we're filing, rape, child abuse, incest, endangerment, unlawful imprisonment, he won't see the outside of a prison for a very, very long time. Rebecca looked at Clarissa. We'll be opening an emergency hearing as soon as Talia is medically cleared. Based on what I've seen and your testimony, I don't see any barrier to placing her back with you, assuming your current home passes inspection. Clarissa nodded. It will. I've been preparing for this for years. Talia looked at her mother, eyes wide. You really want me to come live with you? Clarissa leaned forward. More than anything. And the baby too. We'll do it together. You're not alone anymore. Dr. Navarro entered the room quietly, checking Talia's monitors. Vitals are holding steady, she said. The baby's heartbeat is still irregular, but showing slight improvement. We've started the second round of steroid injections. Her lungs are still developing, but we're optimistic. The next 48 hours are critical. Talia took a deep breath. I want to keep her, she said suddenly. Everyone turned toward her. I know I'm young, but she didn't do anything wrong. I don't want her to suffer because of how she came into the world. Clarissa nodded, tears in her eyes. Then we'll raise her together. You, me, and your daughter. She'll know she's loved. Every single day. Valdez closed his notebook. We'll leave you to rest. CPS and our office will be following up tomorrow. But for tonight, just focus on healing. He looked at Talia, his voice softening. You've already done more than most adults ever could. Talia gave a small nod, finally allowing herself to lean back against the pillows. As the others exited the room, Clarissa remained by her daughter's side, stroking her hair as the girl slowly drifted into a light sleep. Dr. Manel lingered for a moment, watching the gentle rise and fall of Talia's chest, the slight twitch of her hand as it clutched her mother's fingers. The darkness outside remained, but in that room, for the first time in years, there was safety. Morning light began to spill into the hospital room, casting soft shadows across the tiled floor and illuminating the still figure of Talia as she slept, her breath slow and even. Clarissa sat in the chair beside her daughter's bed, her hand still gently resting atop Talia's. She hadn't slept, but she didn't care. Her eyes were red, her posture slouched from exhaustion, but her grip had never loosened. For the first time in years, she felt like a mother again, needed, trusted, and forgiven. The machines beeped steadily, a fragile chorus of life, both for Talia and for the tiny child growing inside her. Dr. Manel returned to the hospital early, stopping at the nurse station to check on Talia's vitals before heading to her room. He knocked softly and pushed the door open. Clarissa looked up and offered a faint but grateful smile. "She's still sleeping," she whispered. "Good," Manel replied. "She needs rest more than anything." He glanced at the monitors and the fetal strips, nodding. The baby's heart rhythm has stabilized a little. Not perfect, but better than last night. That fall could have killed them both. Clarissa's throat tightened. "If you hadn't come back, if you hadn't listened, you were the one who called," he said gently. "You still knew. Deep down, you knew she was in danger. That means something." Clarissa lowered her gaze. "There were signs. I saw things, heard things. But I told myself he was just strict, or that she was moody. I didn't want to believe," her voice cracked. "I didn't want to believe my daughter was living in hell 3 miles away from me." "Predators like Patrick manipulate everyone," Manel said. "Not just their victims. The courts, the neighbors, sometimes even other doctors. They're experts at hiding the truth." As they spoke, Rebecca Sloan from CPS returned, followed by a hospital social worker and a case officer from the DA's office. They all gathered in a small consultation room just down the hallway. Dr. Navarro joined them as well, ready to share the medical update. Detective Valdez arrived last, carrying a new file folder, his expression serious. "We have new evidence," he announced. The forensic team pulled dozens of files from Patrick Henley's basement setup, hundreds of hours of footage, stored in encrypted drives. But there are also older photographs, going back at least 5 years. This wasn't just about control. He was documenting it, obsessively. Clarissa winced, her stomach turning. Do I have to see it?" "Not unless you're willing," Rebecca said. "We'll do everything we can to shield you and Talia from unnecessary exposure. But if this goes to trial, the defense might try to challenge custody history." "They can try," Clarissa said firmly. "I'm not hiding anymore. He made me out to be unstable, irresponsible. I made mistakes, but I never hurt her. And I've changed." "Your background will be reviewed, of course," the DA officer added. "But we've already begun filing for emergency placement with you as the guardian. Unless we find something deeply disqualifying, it's unlikely the court will challenge it." Dr. Navarro cleared her throat. "Medically speaking, Talia needs extended care. She's severely anemic, undernourished, and emotionally traumatized. She'll need prenatal support, therapy, and eventually postnatal care. The baby is viable, but still at high risk. We'll be monitoring closely." "And the delivery?" Clarissa asked. "It might come early," Navarro replied. "But with proper steroid treatment, we're hoping for at least another few weeks. That would give the baby a stronger chance at full lung development." Back in Talia's room, the girl slowly stirred, blinking against the sunlight. Her mother leaned in quickly. "Hey," she whispered. "You're safe. We're at the hospital." Talia looked around. confusion flashing briefly in her eyes before fading into understanding. He's gone. He's in jail, Clarissa assured her. They have everything. The photos, the videos. You don't have to go back there ever again. Talia exhaled, her chest rising and falling with something like relief. Is the baby okay? Still holding on, Manel said gently. You both are stronger than you think. A few minutes later, Rebecca entered again, this time alone. She pulled a chair beside the bed. Talia, I know this is a lot, but we'd like to begin paperwork for your protection and your future care. Your mom is being evaluated to take custody again, permanently. Talia looked to Clarissa. You want me? Clarissa's eyes filled with tears. I never stopped. I just didn't know how to fight hard enough. But I'm here now, and I'm never letting anyone take you away from me again. Rebecca smiled softly. It's your choice too, Talia. Would you like to go home with your mom when the doctors release you? The girl hesitated for only a second. Yes. Okay, Rebecca said, opening a folder. We'll start with temporary emergency placement while the formal process moves forward. In the meantime, we'll arrange in-home support, prenatal visits, and counseling. What about school? Talia asked. We'll discuss options, Rebecca said. You're entitled to education in a safe environment. But first, we focus on your health and the baby. As the paperwork was signed, a nurse stepped in to check on Talia's floor. You have a visitor downstairs, she told Clarissa. From the women's shelter. She brought something for you. Clarissa nodded. I'll go down quickly. When she returned minutes later, she carried a soft, folded bundle. She unfolded it beside Talia, a tiny set of baby clothes. A onesie with soft yellow stars and a small crocheted cap. The women at the shelter knitted this, she said. They said no child should ever come into this world unloved. Talia ran her fingers over the fabric, her expression unreadable. I don't know how to be a mom, she whispered. Clarissa sat beside her again. Neither did I when you were born. But I learned. We'll learn together. Talia nodded slowly. I want her to have a name. You don't have to rush that decision, Manel said kindly. Take your time. No, Talia replied. I've been thinking. Her name will be Hope. The courthouse was quiet that morning, the air heavy with tension and the scent of coffee lingering from the early hours. Inside one of the smaller family courtrooms, rows of polished wooden benches stood mostly empty, save for a few legal aides and social workers preparing documents. A bailiff adjusted papers on the judge's bench, while a court clerk checked the docket for the day. Clarissa sat near the front, hands clasped tightly in her lap, dressed in modest, professional attire that hid her nerves, but not the exhaustion that clung to her eyes. She glanced behind her as Dr. Manel stepped quietly and gave her a reassuring nod. Across the aisle, a pair of uniformed officers entered escorting Patrick Henley, his wrists cuffed and his orange jumpsuit stark against the oak-paneled walls. His expression was blank, though his jaw clenched when he saw Clarissa. She didn't look away. This wasn't just a procedural hearing. It was the first time she had faced him in over 4 years, and the first time since learning the truth of what he had done to their daughter. He was no longer the manipulative ex-husband who had won custody. He was a criminal, an exposed predator, waiting to be stripped of everything he had used to control and destroy. Judge Marlene Taggart entered shortly after, her presence stern and deliberate. We're here today for an emergency custody review under Penal Code 278 and Welfare Code 300. Case: Talia Henley, minor child. Petitioning guardian, Ms. Clarissa Wynn. The room settled into silence. The judge's gaze swept the courtroom. I've reviewed the motion submitted by Child Protective Services. I've also received medical affidavits, testimony from Dr. Jared Manel, and criminal reports from the Santa Clara Police Department, MS. Wynn, are you prepared to speak? Clarissa rose, her knees trembling slightly. Yes, Your Honor. Please proceed, the judge said. Clarissa took a deep breath. I lost custody of my daughter when she was 11. At the time, I was struggling with addiction, gambling mostly, and I made terrible choices. I left her alone one night while attending an illegal poker game. I was arrested when the game was raided. Patrick used that opportunity to file for full custody. He painted himself as the responsible parent, and the court believed him. She glanced toward Patrick, whose expression hadn't changed. I deserve scrutiny. I understand that. But he cut me off completely. I tried to write letters. I tried to call. I got a restraining order in return. He moved. Changed schools. I spent years trying to clean up my life, got a steady job, a lease in my own name, therapy, sobriety milestones. I wanted to fight for her again, but I was terrified I wouldn't be believed. I didn't have proof that he was doing something wrong. But now we do, and all I want is to protect her. The judge looked over her glasses. Thank you, Ms. Wynn. We'll hear from CPS. Rebecca Sloan stepped forward, presenting a stack of documents. Your Honor, in addition to what Ms. Wynn has shared, we conducted a full home inspection. Her living environment is stable, safe, and appropriate for a minor and a newborn. We recommend immediate transfer of emergency custody. The judge nodded. And the medical opinion? Dr. Manel stepped up, adjusting his tie. Your Honor, I was the attending physician when Talia came to my clinic. Based on her physical condition, emotional state, and the medical scans, I believed something was deeply wrong. She presented with pregnancy symptoms, but wasn't allowed to speak. I performed an ultrasound and discovered she was 29 weeks pregnant. I advised immediate hospitalization. The father refused. He continued, voice steady. Talia later handed me photographs. They showed Mr. Henley in situations that left no ambiguity. I contacted the police that evening. When officers arrived, Mr. Henley attempted to flee with the child onto the roof. He pushed her off. She survived due to police preparedness. Mr. Henley is now facing multiple felony charges. The judge raised an eyebrow. Is the minor in recovery? Yes, Your Honor. Both she and the unborn child are being monitored at Fairmont General Hospital. They are stable. Patrick finally spoke. His voice was bitter, defensive. She was never in danger. She lied. She wanted attention. The judge held up a hand. Mr. Henley, you are here as the respondent under criminal indictment. You will not make accusations against a minor victim. Sit down. The room fell silent again. The judge reviewed the folder before her. Then she looked at Clarissa. Ms. Wynn, you are granted emergency custody effective immediately. We will schedule a follow-up hearing for permanent reinstatement pending the outcome of the criminal trial and continued home visits. Talia will remain in your care upon discharge from the hospital. Clarissa let out a trembling breath, tears slipping down her cheeks. Thank you, Your Honor. The gavel struck once. This court is adjourned. Patrick was escorted out, his stare burning with silent rage. But no one looked away from him anymore. The mask was off. As Clarissa stepped outside the courtroom, the sun warming her face for the first time in days, she felt a weight lift, not entirely, but enough to breathe. Manel joined her at the steps. That was brave, he said. That was justice, she replied, or the start of it. The courthouse was quiet that morning, the air heavy with tension and the scent of coffee lingering from the early hours. Inside one of the smaller family courtrooms, rows of polished wooden benches stood mostly empty, save for a few legal aides and social workers preparing documents. A bailiff adjusted papers on the judge's bench while a court clerk checked the docket for the day. Clarissa sat near the front, hands clasped tightly in her lap, dressed in modest, professional attire that hid her nerves, but not the exhaustion that clung to her eyes. She glanced behind her as Dr. Manel stepped quietly and gave her a reassuring nod. Across the aisle, a pair of uniformed officers entered escorting Patrick Henley, his wrists cuffed and his orange jumpsuit stark against the oak-paneled walls. His expression was blank, though his jaw clenched when he saw Clarissa. She didn't look away. This wasn't just a procedural hearing. It was the first time she had faced him in over 4 years, and the first time since learning the truth of what he had done to their daughter. He was no longer the manipulative ex-husband who had won custody. He was a criminal, an exposed predator, waiting to be stripped of everything he had used to control and destroy. Judge Marlene Taggart entered shortly after, her presence stern and deliberate. We're here today for an emergency custody review under Penal Code 278 and Welfare Code 300. Case: Talia Henley, minor child. Petitioning guardian, Ms. Clarissa Wynn. The room settled into silence. The judge's gaze swept the courtroom. I've reviewed the motion submitted by Child Protective Services. I've also received medical affidavits, testimony from Dr. Jared Manel, and criminal reports from the Santa Clara Police Department. MS. Wynn, are you prepared to speak? Clarissa rose, her knees trembling slightly. Yes, Your Honor. Please proceed, the judge said. Clarissa took a deep breath. I lost custody of my daughter when she was 11. At the time, I was struggling with addiction, gambling mostly, and I made terrible choices. I left her alone one night while attending an illegal poker game. I was arrested when the game was raided. Patrick used that opportunity to file for full custody. He painted himself as the responsible parent, and the court believed him. She glanced toward Patrick, whose expression hadn't changed. I deserve scrutiny. I understand that. But he cut me off completely. I tried to write letters. I tried to call. I got a restraining order in return. He moved. Changed schools. I spent years trying to clean up my life, got a steady job, a lease in my own name, therapy, sobriety milestones. I wanted to fight for her again, but I was terrified I wouldn't be believed. I didn't have proof that he was doing something wrong. But now we do, and all I want is to protect her. The judge looked over her glasses. Thank you, Ms. Wynn. We'll hear from CPS. Rebecca Sloan stepped forward, presenting a stack of documents. Your Honor, in addition to what Ms. Wynn has shared, we conducted a full home inspection. Her living environment is stable, safe, and appropriate for a minor and a newborn. We recommend immediate transfer of emergency custody. The judge nodded. And the medical opinion? Dr. Manel stepped up, adjusting his tie. Your Honor, I was the attending physician when Talia came to my clinic. Based on her physical condition, emotional state, and the medical scans, I believed something was deeply wrong. She presented with pregnancy symptoms, but wasn't allowed to speak. I performed an ultrasound and discovered she was 29 weeks pregnant. I advised immediate hospitalization. The father refused. He continued, voice steady. Talia later handed me photographs. They showed Mr. Henley in situations that left no ambiguity. I contacted the police that evening. When officers arrived, Mr. Henley attempted to flee with the child onto the roof. He pushed her off. She survived due to police preparedness. Mr. Henley is now facing multiple felony charges. The judge raised an eyebrow. Is the minor in recovery? Yes, Your Honor. Both she and the unborn child are being monitored at Fairmont General Hospital. They are stable. Patrick finally spoke. His voice was bitter, defensive. She was never in danger. She lied. She wanted attention. The judge held up a hand. Mr. Henley, you are here as the respondent under criminal indictment. You will not make accusations against a minor victim. Sit down. The room fell silent again. The judge reviewed the folder before her. Then she looked at Clarissa. Ms. Wynne, you are granted emergency custody effective immediately. We will schedule a follow-up hearing for permanent reinstatement pending the outcome of the criminal trial and continued home visits. Talia will remain in your care upon discharge from the hospital. Clarissa let out a trembling breath, tears slipping down her cheeks. Thank you, Your Honor. The gavel struck once. This court is adjourned. Patrick was escorted out, his stare burning with silent rage. But no one looked away from him anymore. The mask was off. As Clarissa stepped outside the courtroom, the sun warming her face for the first time in days, she felt a weight lift, not entirely, but enough to breathe. Manel joined her at the steps. That was brave, he said. That was justice, she replied, or the start of it. It had been 4 months since Talia brought Hope home from the hospital, and in that time, the walls of Clarissa's modest apartment had transformed into a haven of warmth, safety, and something that had once felt foreign, normalcy. The morning started early now, with the soft gurgles of a baby waking in the crib by the window, and the gentle rustle of blankets as Talia stirred from the twin bed they had moved into the nursery so she could be close to her daughter. Clarissa would already be in the kitchen, making oatmeal and boiling water for formula, humming old lullabies without realizing it, her body moving with a maternal rhythm she hadn't used in years. Talia would yawn and stretch, her body still recovering but stronger with every passing day, and move to Hope's crib with a smile, lifting the small girl who had become her entire world into her arms. Hope was growing fast, already nearly doubling her weight, her cheeks full and round, her fingers always reaching for whatever was nearby, curious about the world with wide, unblinking eyes. She cooed when she saw her mother, gurgled when her grandmother made funny faces, and kicked wildly during diaper changes like she was trying to dance. There were hard days, of course, days when Talia would wake from nightmares with a scream caught in her throat, or when the pain from labor complications flared unexpectedly, or when the memory of Patrick's voice whispered through her mind uninvited, dragging shadows into the light. Therapy sessions helped, slowly peeling back the layers of fear and guilt, and each visit from Rebecca Sloan reminded them that recovery wasn't linear, but still very possible. The court proceedings continued in the background, with Patrick's defense team attempting delay after delay, but the evidence was overwhelming: photos, videos, Talia's testimony, the physical proof of years of harm, and the district attorney was confident. He's not getting out, they assured Clarissa. Not for a very long time, if ever. Despite this, Clarissa installed extra locks on the doors, bought pepper spray for Talia, and checked the window latches twice before bed, not out of paranoia, but out of love, out of the instinct that had once failed her daughter and would not again. Talia enrolled in an online school program, determined to finish high school while caring for Hope. She studied while the baby napped, her books spread across the kitchen table, a pacifier resting between the pages of a biology textbook. Dr. Manel visited once a month, bringing formula samples and updates on local support programs, but mostly just to check in, to see with his own eyes the girl who had once whispered she kicks when she hears his voice, and was now laughing while bouncing that same child in her arms. One afternoon, as summer melted into early autumn, the three of them, Talia, Clarissa, and baby Hope, sat on a bench in the neighborhood park, the leaves golden and red, the sun warm but not hot. Hope was cradled in a baby carrier across Talia's chest, her tiny hand curled against her mother's heart. Clarissa was reading aloud from a children's book, pausing to point at the pictures even though the baby was far too young to understand. Talia looked out across the park, watching other families, Parents pushing strollers, kids playing on jungle gyms, a golden retriever bounding after a tennis ball. And for a moment, she let herself believe that she was one of them. Not a cautionary tale, not a survivor with scars hidden beneath her sleeves, but a mom. Just a mom, sitting in a park with her baby and her mother, smiling. "She's going to be okay," she said suddenly, softly. Clarissa looked up. "You both are." Talia nodded, adjusting Hope's blanket as the infant stirred slightly, making a small sound of protest before settling again. "Do you think she'll ask one day?" "She might," Clarissa replied. "And when she does, you'll tell her the truth," her mother said. "But you'll also tell her that she was born into love, that the moment she came into the world, she changed everything, that she gave you strength when you had none, that she saved you as much as you saved her." Talia felt tears prick the corners of her eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall, warm and quiet. Across the park, the wind picked up slightly, rustling the leaves and making Hope's blanket flutter gently. "I used to think I'd never be free," she whispered, "that he'd own me forever. But now," she looked down at Hope, sleeping peacefully. "Now I know I'm more than what he did. I'm not his. I'm hers. And I'm mine." Clarissa reached over and squeezed her hand. In the distance, the sun began its slow descent behind the trees, casting a golden hue across the playground. The moment felt small and enormous all at once, the quiet end to a horrific chapter, and the fragile, determined beginning of something entirely new. For the first time in years, there was no screaming, no threats, no locked doors or muffled cries. Just 3 generations of women, one rebuilding her life, one holding it steady, and one just beginning hers, sitting in the open air, breathing, healing living. And in the faint heartbeat of baby Hope's sleep, the promise of a future beat softly, insistently, and undeniably alive.